While Xu Zizhi was undergoing a curettage surgery, her husband was accompanying Bai Yueguang for a prenatal check. Up. Let's get divorced. After 3 years of marriage, she was heartbroken and finally gave up on this troubled marriage. But after divorce, why are there so many excellent men chasing her every day around her? Why is a group of high-tech tycoons chasing her every day, shouting for help behind her? She moved into a luxurious mansion and is being pursued by TV programs every day. What's going on? When did she even have a cute little carrot head with her? Knowing yourself, don't miss me. In the middle of the night, Zhan Yeqing leaned against the wall and humbly begged. My ex-husband, it's a bit late to find me now. Chapter 1. I agree to divorce. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. We need to notify your husband to come and sign for the palace cleaning surgery, so that we can perform the surgery on you. When the doctor notified Xu Zizhi that her child was gone, Zhan Yeqing is accompanying his truly beloved woman for prenatal checkups. Xu Zizhi's fingers fiercely penetrated into his palm, and his slender shoulders swayed in a dimly visible area from the doctor. A bitter smile squeezed out of his pale face. Can I sign it myself? The doctor finally lifted his head and gave a serious warning. This is a hospital policy, and your husband is not the president of the federation. He doesn't even have time to come to the hospital. What's the point of keeping such a useless husband? Yeah. Xu Zizhi didn't know either. After a month of Cold War, she still insisted on not getting divorced. What was she doing? A month ago, the Xu family went bankrupt, and Xu Zizhi's father committed suicide by jumping off a building. His mother was depressed and went to the hospital. That day, she arrived in front of Zhan Yeqing in the pouring rain. She was soaked all over, but saw that he was cooking a pregnant woman's meal for Qin Yufei with a slightly swollen belly. Zhan Yeqing, who never touches the spring water with his 10 fingers, has always been aloof and pampered. After 3 years of marriage, he never even made a bowl of noodles for her. Now he is actually cooking a pregnant woman's meal. Looking at Qin Yufei, who looked somewhat similar to herself, her delicate little face carried a touch of delicate tenderness. Although she was pregnant, she didn't have any of the bloating of a pregnant woman. Standing with Zhan Yeqing, it seemed like they were the newlywed couple in this family. But Xu knew that this legitimate wife had become an outsider. Xu Zizhi wanted to ask him to help the Xu family. Although he seemed very unfamiliar with the Xu family after getting married, she already knew at that time that she was pregnant. For the past 3 years, his measures have been very good. This time, he accidentally became pregnant after getting drunk. She thought, maybe he would help the Xu family for the sake of the child. Let's get divorced. Seeing Xu Zizhi, who was all disheveled, he didn't ask any extra questions, but he proposed a divorce for the first time. Xu Zizhi looked at Qin Yufei standing next to him with a smile on her face. At this moment, there was no need to ask, and she also knew the reason for his divorce. I disagree. She trembled her lips and said these words hoarsely. Afterwards, Zhan Yeqing moved out of their villa and never saw her again. Until this day, she managed her father's funeral alone, but encountered an unreasonable troublemaker at the funeral. She was pushed to the ground to have an abortion. Looking at her examination report, she had no choice but to take out her phone and weakly called Zhan Yeqing. Have you agreed to divorce? At the moment of answering the phone, Zhan Yeqing's cold voice came from the other end. Our child is gone, can you come and help me sign the surgery? This sentence seemed to suddenly choke in the throat at this moment. She remained silent for a long time, hearing the person on the other end of the phone with a hint of disgust in her breath. Yes, I agree. Zhan Yeqing seemed to have a sudden surprise. After all, every time he mentioned divorce in the past, she would humbly request and hysterically refuse to let go. This time, she surprisingly agreed so happily. See you tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau. Yi Qing, look at it. The baby's ultrasound has been done. I think it looks like you. The delicate female voice came through the voice of the phone. It seemed like an invisible hand, passing through the voice of the phone and gripping Xu Zizhi's throat. Chapter 2. Heart Dies Like Ash. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. She couldn't help it anymore and threw down the phone, clinging to it and vomiting fiercely. The phone suddenly hung up. Zhan Yeqing looked at the phone without moving. Why did she suddenly agree to divorce? And just before hanging up the phone, he clearly heard something strange happening over there. Night engine. Qin Yufei's voice sounded discontentedly on the side. What's wrong with you? You're not even looking. Zhan Yeqing finally regained his senses. I went back to get the information, and she agreed to divorce. Qin Yufei felt a burst of joy, but looking at Zhan Yeqing's expressionless handsome face, she always felt that Zhan Yeqing didn't look as happy as she thought. 39, Linhai Road, that 3-story villa, is their wedding house in the past 3 years. Zhan Yeqing returned to this place he had not set foot in a month. In the past, when he came back every day, there would be a gentle figure in the room, standing in the kitchen, carefully cooking congee for him. He has serious stomach problems and often vomits after eating. After marrying him, Xu Zizhi took careful care of himself for 2 years, and his stomach miraculously improved a lot. But at this moment, the pitch-black room is empty. He walked into the room where he had been lingering with her. On the big bed, there were no neatly folded pajamas that he used to fold every day, nor were there the incense he was accustomed to. However, after a month, the room suddenly became extremely unfamiliar. The door creaked open from behind. Xu Zizhi looked at the tall man in front of him. Zhan Yeqing was dressed in his usual black, and the shirt brand she had carefully selected for him in the past, carrying a diamond brooch that she had once given him as a birthday gift. He's already with Qin Yue now, but he's still wearing these. Thinking of him wearing the clothes she bought and flirting with Qin Yue, she felt a wave of nausea in her heart. How did you come back? She looked sharply at the man in front of her. Xu Zizhi has lost a lot of weight, and I don't know if it's his illusion. Her whole body seems to have also become much paler. Is it because he proposed a divorce? So she felt very sad in her heart. The heart, which had originally been fluctuating, now inexplicably calmed down a lot. You look very ugly, he said. Xu Zizhi sneered, what, are you caring about me? Don't die before divorce. I don't want to be a widower and leave a bad reputation for suppressing my wife. Cold words pierced into her heart like ice cones. That's right, this is Zhan Yeqing. If one day he suddenly cares about himself, she will still wonder if he has changed his personality. After they got married, their closest moments were probably in bed. Obviously, he is quite satisfied with her body. However, after the passion, he immediately turned his face and didn't recognize anyone. In the past, she always felt that he was still willing to touch her, and in his heart, he somewhat liked her. It wasn't until she saw Qin Yufei's eyes that she understood that he suddenly agreed to marry someone whose status didn't match his own. I just realized why after so many years, even if they got married, the outside world knew nothing about their relationship. Even if we separate, she won't have to continue this loveless marriage with him. After tomorrow, she cleared up the remaining remnants in her stomach, along with the last bit of trash in their marriage. In this way, they won't have to meet again in the future. Chapter 3. First Counterattack. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Don't worry, I won't die before the divorce, and I don't want to die either. I still have your Zhan family surname on my name. Even if I die, I will stay far away from you to avoid any bad luck. Zhan Ye raised his sword eyebrows. Those beautiful eyebrows and eyes were instantly stained with anger. He never knew that this woman would still confront him. My mouth is so powerful. Ah, Xu Zizhi, is this your true face? After 3 years of being gentle and virtuous, you have been pretending to be really hardworking. Xu Zizhi smiled pale. Yes, How much did she put in to do this Mrs. Zhan well? Abandoning his career and abilities, he plunged into the muddy waters of the Zhan family after graduation, willing to wash his hands and make soup for him. But what result has she obtained now? Do you only know now? Xu Zizhi gave a cool smile, and his eyes, which had always been clear and pitch black, flashed with infinite ridicule. Yes, you can tell from the way you usually feel satisfied and proud of yourself when you get out of bed. My acting skills are simply Oscar level, right? You. What does she mean by that? Zhan Junyi's face instantly froze. Looking at the sharp and handsome face, Xu Zizhi suddenly felt an unprecedented sense of pleasure when he first had such an ironclad appearance. Sad and joyful. Xu Zizhi, I underestimated you. Since we are all going to divorce, I don't have much to pretend about. Remember to prepare the divorce agreement, but I don't expect any problems to drag down our divorce process. The hospital insists that her husband come to sign. She divorced and lost her husband, so she doesn't need to sign anymore. She silently thought in her heart. Oh, suddenly you want to divorce. What are you planning on? Zhan Yiqing suddenly felt something was wrong and grabbed her collar, forcing his gaze into her somewhat indistinct eyes. The unfamiliar fragrance on his body approached, and Xu knew he was a bit dazed. That's not the perfume she bought for him. Is it the fragrance on Qin Yue's body? She reached out to push his hand in disgust and said, What conspiracy? You overthink it. I just want to get divorced soon, and I don't want you to delay me from finding the next family. Are you looking for the next one so soon? Zhan Yiqing's amber eyes flashed with a fierce look. Do you want to quickly find the next one, or have you already found the next one? Hurry up and climb someone else's bed. Xu Zizhi laughed out loud when he heard it. Mr. Zhan, you wouldn't immediately become interested in me again when you hear me climb someone else's bed. After all, you like those who don't have time to climb, such as your Miss Qin. How could someone who already has children with others come to care if she can climb someone else's bed? As soon as he finished speaking, Xu Zizhi felt his rough hand squeezing her neck. How dare you insult Yufei with your filthy mouth? A feeling of suffocation came through. Xu Zizhi saw such anger on Zhan Yiqing's face for the first time. The previously warm eyes now seemed to be filled with anger. She had long heard that Miss Qin had always been his white moonlight and his childhood sweetheart. Now she clearly felt that all his emotional ups and downs in front of her were caused by her. Xu Zizhi can only smile bitterly in his heart. Perhaps at this moment, she was really choked to death by him, and he wouldn't have any expression because of her. She really quietly closed her eyes. Chapter 4. Making money to support the family. You are listening at novelfull.audio. But before she really suffocated, he finally let go of her neck. He naturally wouldn't really strangle her, he still wants to marry Qin Yufei cleanly. Xu Zizhi packed up her things for half a night, and when she gets divorced, she will make room for them. The Xu family has gone bankrupt, and their father is also gone. There is only one apartment left at home. Her sickly mother is still waiting at home for herself to support her. She needs to quickly take care of her body, tidy up her mood, and earn money to support her family. After looking at the contact information of her senior brother on the table, she hesitated for a moment and still called. Knowing yourself, are you really willing to work in our studio? If that's true, that would be great. Back then, the professor kept saying that you would become the best architectural designer in China, but unfortunately, you disappeared after graduation. Now that you can come back, we will warmly welcome you. Xu Zizhi listened to his senior brother's voice on the phone and felt 1,000 emotions in his heart. Thank you, senior brother, for giving me this opportunity. Back then, she was surprised and happy to know that she could marry a man like Zhan Yiqing, who was unparalleled in fame and fortune. She felt extremely lucky to have caught the attention of this esteemed man in Haicheng. Now, she realized how ridiculous she was. Then she went to visit her mother again. What are you saying, you're divorcing Zhan Yeqing. Shen Yurong slapped her and cried loudly, over the years, you haven't brought back any benefits from marrying him for our family. Now that our family is bankrupt, even if you kneel down and beg him not to abandon you, how can you divorce? Xu Zizhi seemed to have lost her sense of pain. She looked at her mother and said, Mom, it's not that I insist on divorcing him, it's that the woman he likes has returned and he wants to divorce me. But Shen Yurong wouldn't listen at all. Why are you so useless? You've been sleeping with him for 3 years and can't even hold a man's heart. I don't agree to divorce, I don't agree. Xu Zizhi could only press down on Shen Yurong, who was still beating people recklessly, and said, I will find a way to get the money. No matter what, I will bring you the money tomorrow, but for this marriage, I am divorced. Xu Zizhi turned around and left. When she returned home, she tidied up the precious clothes in the room. In the past 3 years, the clothes, shoes, and bags bought by the Zhan family for her have hardly been used by her. She contacted a cabinet lady and planned to sell them all. The money should also be enough to sustain her family for a period of time. Later, she will work hard to take on the project and draw design drawings. With the design share, her life will be relieved. In the mall, the shopkeeper looked at these clothes and then at Xu Zizhi's simple outfit. She raised her eyebrows and said, Are these all real? How could a woman dressed so plainly and without any fame have so many famous brands? The shopkeeper couldn't believe it. As if not hearing the contemptuous tone of the cabinet lady, Xu knew, it's all true. There's one fake thing that I'm willing to compensate you for. The cabinet lady is half convinced, but the goods do not seem to have any problems. Xu Zizhi, I didn't expect you to be so lowly. Have you come from poverty to sell fake goods and cheat people out of money? Qin Yufei. A slender and fair wrist with a delicate watch stretched out in front of Xu Zizhi. The tender white fingertips grabbed the clothes, looked contemptuously, and then threw them directly to the ground. Chapter 5. Encountering White Moonlight. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What are you doing? Xu Zizhi turned around angrily. She seemed like a towering winner, looking at Xu Zizhi who was cheap. As soon as the cabinet lady saw her, she immediately bowed and said, Mrs. Zhan, why are you shopping alone today? Qin Yufei smiled delicately and said, she's a famous scammer, a worthless poor person. Where did you get these things? Don't fall for them. The cabinet lady's face changed and she twisted as she looked at Xu Zizhi. Okay, I knew it. You wait for me, don't leave, I'll call the police right away. Xu Zizhi's face changed and he said, she said it's fake, is it fake? You're not blind and can't see. No matter who comes, I can say that you can check it casually, these are definitely true. The cabinet lady sneered and said, this is Mrs. Zhan. Do you know that Zhan Yeqing is the richest man in China? The last time I saw Mr. Zhan shopping with Mrs. Zhan, I don't believe Mrs. Zhan. Do I believe you, a poor beggar? Qin Yufei rapped her chest and became even more proud. Xu Zizhi gritted his teeth fiercely, picked up something and wanted to leave. Her slender hand once again stopped in front of Xu Zizhi. Xu Zizhi, I heard you were the stunt double brought in by Yeqing. You looked much worse than me. No wonder when I came back, Yeqing was about to divorce you. She looked around Xu Zizhi, with a strong hint of contempt in her smile. Xu Zizhi felt a pain in his heart. However, she still wore that stubborn smile on her face. She knew she had lost to this woman, but she didn't want to appear so humble and ugly in front of her. Qin Yufei continued to press step by step. I heard that your family has gone bankrupt, and now Zhan Yeqing no longer wants you. It's really tragic, no wonder you're falling into the trap of selling branded clothes. Xu Zizhi finally couldn't bear it anymore and turned around to look at Qin Yufei. You came back at the right time. I've been sleeping with this man for 3 years and I'm already tired of it. You can take it and take it over slowly. Qin Yufei's pretty expression turned ugly for a while, you. Looking at the torn mask, Xu Zizhi smiled and approached. What, do you think that I married him for a pure cotton quilt chat? She chuckled softly and said, but there's one thing I want to criticize you for. You really didn't teach him anything useful back then, and after being with me, you slowly learned it. I'm much stronger than you. You should have tried my training results. Aren't you very satisfied? Qin Yufei's whole heart was boiling. Zhan Yeqing and Xu Zizhi have been together for 3 years. Has he really been touching her all these years? Qin Yufei's face turned red with anger. Xu Zizhi curved his lips. But at this moment, Qin Yufei suddenly covered her stomach and screamed out in pain. Ah, it hurts so much. Zhan Yeqing's tall figure suddenly appeared before her eyes. Xu Zizhi had not yet reacted, and the person had already been forcefully pushed by him. She fell to the ground completely. A piercing pain in the knee. She lifted her head and, through her messy hair, saw him grabbing Qin Yufei's waist, fearing that he would appear on his face without any disguise. How's it going? I'm fine, it's just that my stomach hurts a bit. Qin Yufei's eyes were full of pear blossoms and rain, completely different from the woman with a proud expression just now. The condensed expression looked at Xu Zizhi through Zhan Yeqing's eyes. Xu Zizhi, I see you're looking for death. Chapter 6. Unconsciousness. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xu Zizhi gave a cold smile and struggled to get up. But when her stomach hurts. The body that just had an abortion is still very weak. She is too busy today and seems to have forgotten about anti-inflammatory drugs. I haven't done anything. Do you think I didn't hear you? What did you just say to Yufei? Anger flashed through Zhan Yeqing's amber pupils. What were the words she just said? He listened to it word for word, feeling even more unimaginable in his heart. This woman has sharp teeth and a sharp mouth, and she speaks without any mercy, daring to say anything. Xu Zizhi gave a pale smile. That's right, Qin Yufei is his beloved woman. She said a soft and painful word, which was even more effective than saying a million words to her. She gritted her teeth and said, then stay away from me with your beloved woman. I know all the quirks in your bed very well. If you don't go further, if I accidentally reveal a little more, your Rain Fei will be heartbroken. Zhan Yeqing's face turned pale with iron. Xu Zizhi, you are the most shameless woman I have ever seen. Ha, I want money but no money, I want people but no one, I want work but no job, what's the use of my face? Xu Zizhi knew that the pain in his stomach was constantly rolling, and now he just wanted this couple of dogs to disappear from his eyes as soon as possible. Zhan Yeqing seems to have never truly known Xu Zizhi. Taking a deep glance at her, Zhan Yeqing thought to himself, forget it. Anyway, we're going to divorce tomorrow and we don't have to meet again in this lifetime. He helped Qin Yufei walk past her. Xu Zizhi sat on the ground like that, looking at the eyes of the cabinet ladies behind him. It took him some time before he regained his strength and picked up his clothes, shoes, and bags again. What should I take tomorrow to explain to Xin Yurong? Xu Zizhi's heart was filled with confusion. But now she has no other choice. When I returned home, I saw my senior brother still talking to me. She thought for a moment and said, Senior brother, do you have any drawings to draw now? I urgently need money. If there is an urgent need, I can draw now. Over there, senior brother hesitated for a moment before saying, there is one. They are indeed in a hurry to get it, but the drawings are a bit complicated. I was a bit worried and didn't take it. Give me a try. Senior brother quickly formed a small group and learned that Xu Zizhi was just a beginner. The other party openly expressed doubts in the group. We have asked many well-known studios about our pictures, but they dare not take them. Can you do it? Xu knew, I can give it a try. I'll give you a sketch tomorrow morning, and if possible, you can pay the deposit. The other party naturally did not trust, but still reluctantly agreed. After receiving the planning proposal, Xu Zizhi thought for a moment and started drawing. Sleepless all night. In the morning, she finally finished drawing the manuscript and handed it in. She lay on the table and hastily slept. When she woke up again, it was already 8:30. She quickly got up and saw that there was already news in the small group. Wow, did you really draw this picture? Are you really a beginner? It's really amazing. I have to personally promote your masterpiece with our CEO. It's comparable to world-class design. Xu Zizhi also breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, after so many years, she still hasn't forgotten those basic skills. She was in a hurry to go out, quickly packed up her things and prepared to go to the Civil Affairs Bureau. As soon as she arrived at the Civil Affairs Bureau and got off the taxi, she suddenly felt dizzy. It's not good, someone has fainted. When Xu Zizhi woke up again, he was already in the hospital. Chapter 7. To divorce, please pay. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The high fever is almost 40 degrees, you're not going to die anymore. The doctor frowned beside him, looking in surprise at the woman on the bed who still had the strength to come down. Xu Zizhi struggled to grab his phone. It's 9:15. There were indeed countless phone calls from Zhan Yeqing on his phone, and she had even guessed the fierce expression on his face that almost wanted to strangle her. She quickly dialed back. Xu Zizhi, it's 9:15. Where are you? As expected, as soon as the phone was connected, his deep anger came from over there. I may not be able to go today. She looked at the drops on her hand and felt her weak body. Every move made her feel dizzy, and she might not be able to walk a few steps at all. Xu Zizhi, are you fooling me? His voice became even more furious. I'm not. I'm currently in the hospital. Are you dead? If you're not dead, even if you're crawling, you'll have to come over and complete the procedures for me. Without any pity, his cold words came from the phone with a bone-chilling chill. It was like a big hand, holding onto her neck through the phone, making it difficult for her to breathe. As long as you don't die, don't delay his future with his white moonlight, right? In his eyes, is she now worthless, just an eye-catching toad, a stumbling block on his beautiful love journey with Qin Yufei? At this moment, her heart was truly completely cold. She moved her lips slightly, but before she could speak, Zhan Yeqing's cold voice came again, don't find such despicable excuses to delay time. You know it's useless to me. Haha. Xu Zizhi chuckled softly, you found out. Are you? As expected, Zhan Yeqing tightened his grip on his phone. Okay, you really want to separate from me so quickly. I'm not satisfied with the original divorce agreement, so I need to make some changes now. What should I change? I want 30 million, give me this money, and I'll go get a divorce from you right away. Xu Zizhi's fingers inserted into her palm, as if trying to use the pain in her palm to lower the pain in her heart. 30 million. Zhan Yeqing's sarcastic voice was tinged with a hint of oppression. It seems that I am suppressing my anger strongly. You really dare the lion to speak up, Xu Zizhi. Do you think you're worth this money? Ha, isn't it worth it? Xu Zizhi smiled coldly and said, yes, I'm not worth it, but is your Qin Yufei also not worth it? If you don't agree to give me this money, I can wait. I don't know if Qin Yufei's stomach can wait, but she can't cover it anymore. And you're still married to me. Then the whole world will know that there is a wild seed in her stomach that you gave birth to through an affair with her. Xu Zizhi. The angry voice trembled. Xu Zizhi laughed even harder. Tears of laughter dripped from the corners of my eyes. My patience is limited. You can give me a 10% deposit today, otherwise I can go and let everyone know about my relationship with you today. Zhan Yeqing, don't try to challenge my bottom line because I don't have a bottom line, ha. Xu Zizhi laughed almost crazily and hung up the phone with a smile. She knew that she had just personally destroyed the little bit of marital relationship that the two had accumulated over the past 3 years. No, maybe it was destroyed long ago, but she was still deceiving herself before. And now she is also forcing herself to give up. Chapter 8. The Little White Rabbit Has Changed. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Zhan Yeqing hung up the phone and walked non-stop to the company, asking the staff to prepare a 3 million deposit for Xu Zizhi first. He didn't dare to gamble. This woman has been very strange lately. He found that she was like a stranger in front of him, and he didn't know anything about her. Yeqing, you have finally come to the company. Today, I saw a stunning sketch in the design department. Previously, you wanted to find a designer who could draw the Tianning building, but no one dared to take it on. Today, a studio took the picture and the Tianning building, which had been stuck for half a year, can finally start working. Now, I see how your busy second uncle can still find fault for you. Gu Qingze walked in excitedly from outside, only to find that Zhan Yeqing was flipping through things with a murderous aura on his face. Shut up. Zhan Yeqing directly stopped Gu Qingze's incessant chatter. What happened? Gu Qingze realized something was wrong with him. I want to check where Xu Zizhi is now, isn't it 3 million yuan? I will personally deliver it to her, but I want to see if she has the courage to take it. Xu Zizhi. Isn't that your wife? What's going on? That's not a little white rabbit who doesn't understand anything. How could it suddenly make you so angry? Gu Qingze had never seen Zhan Yeqing so angry before. She needs 30 million to be willing to divorce me. Gu Qingze was greatly shocked and said, this woman is too scary, isn't she so greedy for money? I really underestimated her before. Zhan Yeqing's fists became tighter and tighter, as if he was holding Xu Zizhi's head in his palm. General Zhan, we have found the whereabouts of my wife. The subordinate quickly came to report. Where is it? At Ruifu Hospital. Zhan Yeqing's flawless face had an instant of stagnation. Xu Zizhi finished taking some drops and the fever finally subsided. Soon she saw the deposit that her senior brother had given her in the small group. The other party was very generous and gave her a deposit of 1 million at once. With the 3 million given by Zhan Yeqing, it should be enough to deal with it for a while. Xu Zizhi had no doubt that Zhan Yeqing would definitely give him money. 30 million may not be able to be paid all at once, he will always give the deposit. After all, he loves Qin Yufei so much, how could he let her reputation be ruined? Miss Su, I see that you still have one more curettage surgery to do. Hurry up and find a chance to do it, otherwise it's easy for the uterus to become inflamed, and you may experience high fever in the future. The doctor frowned and reminded him. Xu Zizhi knew it in her heart, but she never had anyone come to help sign, so it has been delayed until now. If my mother found out that she had a miscarriage, she would definitely bring the matter to Zhan Yeqing's place. And if Zhan Yeqing finds out, Su couldn't help but sneer in his heart. Does she still hope that Zhan Yeqing will have such a little pity for her? Perhaps there will only be endless ridicule. Xu Zizhi. The sudden voice of Zhan Yeqing made Xu Zizhi's heart almost jump out of his mouth. He still wore his usual black clothes, with a tall and straight figure that stood out particularly in the white and blue hospital, not to mention his unforgettable face. The doctors on one side couldn't help but be shocked. How could the grand Zhan Yeqing suddenly come to their hospital? Chapter 9. Conditional. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Zhan Yeqing's gaze swept over the entire hospital ward. Xu Zizhi's eyes flickered and he quickly stood up. Are you really in the hospital? Xu Zizhi pulled up Zhan Yeqing's arm and pulled him outside. Zhan Yeqing, make noise outside and don't delay other patients in the hospital. Zhan Yeqing vaguely felt that this place was very familiar. Qin Yufei has also been here before. Until outside, Xu Zizhi let go of his arm. Zhan Yeqing smelled a familiar smell. He hasn't been so close to her for a long time. At this moment, as I watched her release her hand, I vaguely remembered that it was the unique scent of her body. The money was ready so quickly, it seems that Mr. Zhan really loves Miss Yufei. Xu Zizhi's resolute words instantly pulled his thoughts back. Mo's eyebrows tightened slightly, and he stared closely at her face. Are you really sick? What disease? Do you care about her at this time? A late concern is better than a dog. Don't worry, you won't become a widower if you can't die of illness, Xu Zizhi sneered. Xu Zizhi. Do you have to speak like that? Zhan Yeqing looked at her increasingly unfamiliar face, and he almost forgot the way she spoke to him gently. Oh, why do you think I'm too harsh? Miss Yufei's gentleness towards you is enough, isn't it? You. Zhan Yeqing's lungs were sore from her strange and sinister aura, but he saw the dripped marks on her slender wrist. What kind of illness is it that's so shameless? She's going to divorce, and for the first time he has such a serious and meticulous side towards her. In the past, not to mention getting sick from injections, she's just dying. He's afraid he won't even notice it. But she doesn't even want to tell him now that she was pregnant with his child. That's an insult to her deceased child. She lost her temper and changed the topic. What's the point of you still caring about me now? In the past 3 years, apart from being in bed, you haven't fulfilled any of your husband's obligations. Ah, I remember, you've never even gone out on a date with me, nor did you go out shopping with me to buy a piece of clothing. I'm very dissatisfied. Besides money, if you want me to agree to divorce, you have to go out shopping with me. What are you saying? Zhan Yeqing's face was full of surprise, and he even found it a bit funny. He laughed directly in anger. You didn't come to the hospital because you had a heart loss and went crazy, did you? Xu Zizhi looked at him firmly and said, it's better to choose a day than to collide with it. Today, go now. Xu Zizhi. Don't go too far. Zhan Yeqing's expression froze again when he saw that she was speaking seriously. Is this too much? You've wasted 3 years of my youth, Zhan Yeqing. During these 3 years, I've dealt with your family for you, endured your mother-in-law's insults, and served your sick grandmother for nothing. Do you think it's all in vain? Do the Zhan family know that Qin Yufei is pregnant with your child before marriage? If I tell them that with such a family that values etiquette, even if they die, they won't let Miss Qin enter the Zhan family's door, right? Xu Zizhi finished speaking in one breath, then proudly raised his head and looked fearlessly at Zhan Yeqing. He only realized now that Xu Zizhi, who used to bow his brows and be easy to handle, could also lift his head and stare at him so directly. Her skin is even whiter than Qin Yufei's, but she is too thin. Chapter 10. You Whistleblower. You are listening at novelfull.audio. He only realized now that Xu Zizhi, who used to bow his brows and be easy to handle, could also lift his head and stare at him so directly. Her skin is even whiter than Qin Yufei's, but she is too thin. He used to take a liking to her because her eyes looked like rain fei. But now, with sharp eyes, her eyes are no longer the same as those of Yufei in the past. Zhan Yeqing looked at her deeply and said, okay, one day you will regret threatening me today. Xu Zizhi only gently tugged at the corner of his lips. Will you regret it? The thing she regrets the most is blindly marrying him for love, and now there is nothing to regret. Zhanya lifted his head and walked out without returning. She wants to get in his car. But he only turned around and said, I only promised to go shopping with you, but I didn't say I would drive you there. Watching his car door close, Xu Zizhi turned around and took a taxi himself. Fortunately, her fever has subsided, otherwise she wouldn't have been able to come to the mall like this. He walked ahead, while Xu Zizhi watched his back from behind. It's funny. After all these years of marriage, she has been so kind to him, and he has given her more emotions than the days of divorce. She smiled self-deprecatingly in her heart, and when she saw him looking back at her, she went straight to the counter. "I'll take this. Take out the most expensive item in your store. Wrap it up for me." He spends money. Xu Zizhi casually ordered something at the counter, regardless of the price, and bought it directly. Not long after, the driver of Zhan Yeqing was already carrying a variety of goods. The expression on Zhan Yeqing's face became increasingly gloomy. It seems like the whole face is tightly tied with a string that can burst at any time. Xu Zizhi felt increasingly relieved in his heart, as if the knots left by the miscarriage these days were slowly opening up due to his anger. "I really didn't see it in the past. You're so fond of buying and selling." Seeing Xu Zizhi come to a luxury goods store again, Zhan Yeqing's forehead twitched with blue veins, mocking him. Xu Zizhi was not polite and waved his hand, causing a wave of consumption. "After all, I am about to divorce and have left General Manager Zhan. I may not have the opportunity to be so extravagant again in the future, so of course, I need to seize the last chance." "What do you call me?" "Mr. Zhan, isn't that right? Or should we call you ex-husband brother? Her tone always carries a sarcastic tone that is extremely uncomfortable to listen to. It's almost unforgettable that she used to obediently call him her husband. He was about to get angry when he suddenly heard his phone ring. He glanced at his phone. His face was slightly frozen. Needless to say, Xu Zizhi had already guessed, it must be Qin Yufei. "Take it on, don't worry, I won't talk to provoke Miss Qin," Xu Zizhi said first. Zhan Yeqing glared fiercely at Xu Zizhi, but still answered the phone. "It's raining heavily." That tone was completely different from when talking to her. Xu Zizhi smiled self-deprecatingly and lowered his head, not wanting to listen anymore. "Yi Qing, where are you? The Zhan family knows I'm pregnant. They just came to see me and asked me to go to the Zhan family. What should I do? I dare not go. Will they harm my child?" Zhan Ye raised his sharp eyes and looked at Xu Zizhi on the side, his eyes icy cold. "Did she do it? She just threatened herself, and Yufei's side was discovered by the Zhan family." Xu Zizhi knew he was being looked at inexplicably, and his eyes couldn't help but tremble. "What are you watching me do?" Zhan Yeqing put down the phone and walked step by step towards Xu Zizhi. "Did you still provoke the Zhan family about Yufei's incident?" "Xu Zizhi. I think you're tired of living." Xu Zizhi was shocked in his heart. How could the warrior actually know? Why is it that we know now?